Willem, it is really nice seeing you again. Thank you for making your time available today. I've known you for a number of years since you did your PhD with me in South Africa at the University of Pretoria. And you will speak a lot more about it in terms of at the time you were also working for the BMW plant in Roslyn, one of the, I think, acclaimed BMW plants. But maybe just in a minute or so before we get to the project management side of things, a brief overview of your career and your history up to today.
Yeah, no, thank you, Juan, and thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be part of your discussion today, and hopefully I can make some contribution. But yes, let me kick off. So I started career in 1997 at the University of Technology, also in Pretoria. Studied computer engineering. This computer engineering was really focused on programming. The university also developed at that stage a program called mechatronics, which I found very interesting. I got part of that, got into robotics and PLC programming. Big gap in industry at that time in South Africa for PLC and robotic training, so started offering that to the industry. And in 2006, BMW became one of my customers, and also very soon I became one of their employees to full-time deliver automation and training technologies for them. That evolved a little bit further, so I was really focused on automation and automation technologies. I ended up in the body shop as a product and process planner, really focusing on integrating new products into the line, introducing new processes, new joining processes in automotive, especially in the body shop where you build the skeleton of the car. This again evolved into small projects to medium-sized projects. And in 2015, I actually got the opportunity to move to Munich for the first time to do a really first big project for BMW, which was a greenfield body shop. At the same time, I was feeling really brave and decided to do my PhD in parallel. And that's where we met. But I tried to keep the two as close as possible. So my PhD or big portion of the PhD was also how do you develop a body shop? How do you make it breathe? Where should you put buffer? And eventually we ended up with this efficient frontier saying there's no perfect body shop, but there is some places where you need to look at, and as long as you are close to this efficient frontier, that would be the target. But nevertheless, I went for 2.5 years to Germany, designed, developed with my team the whole body shop. Once the planning was done, I moved back again to South Africa for 18 months, did the industrialization, so from the process lines to the entire structure. Did it in a really fast time, and I think this was also where we experimented with a few methodologies in project management. After we've launched the facility in 2018, I returned to Germany in 2019, this time to oversee all the X3 projects, body shop projects worldwide. So this included 2 greenfields, one in China, one in Hungary, and then 2 integration sites, which we call brownfields, which was in South Africa and USA. Did the planning again for 3 years, and then again after the 3 years moved back to South Africa again to do the integration, industrialization, still keeping also eye over the other facilities. And then in 2023 decided to leave the company for something a bit more exciting called Fisker, which was a EV startup from California, facilitated and had contract manufacturing in Austria in Magna. So again, with my family, moved to Magna, where we then tried to get this product into the market, which turned out to be really tough, and we were not successful at the end. And then in 2024, middle of 24, I got another opportunity at a company called AESC, which is battery manufacturing. And this is now where I'm currently at. Also really interesting. We are currently building 6 gigafactories, 3 in Europe, 3 in USA, all at the same time. So again, a completely new ballgame, a new challenge. At this time, I'm focusing more on quality. But yes, that's me in a nutshell.
Good. Willem, thank you so much. So clearly, the automotive industry is big in your history. Right. So when we talk about, because I was always kind of fascinated. I remember one of the early visits that I had at the BMW plant at the new body shop was literally walking into this humongous building, and the only thing that I remember was nothing. There were a lot of green and blue and yellow and all kind of different washers and bolts and little paint drops on the floor. And you just excitedly told me that soon, within the next few weeks or months, all of this will be machinery and robots. And lo and behold, a few months later, I visited again, and the plant was close to being up and running. So that entire process, I now hear that, yes, there was a 3-year worth of planning and design stage leading up to that, establishing the new 3 Series body shop. So you ended up, if I recall, I remember the hard hat that you wore, and it kind of had a big thing in the front that says Lighthouse Master. Explain to me a little bit in terms of what does a project team like that look like, and what did the project management involve in setting up that plant specifically?
Yeah, so the project team there's different layers. So the layer I was on was on manufacturing layer, but of course there's a layer up where you also think about customers and getting the product into sales and so forth. But yes, in the engineering, let's call it the engineering/manufacturing level I was in, you would typically have a project manager, and to the project manager there would be a team of between 20 and 30 engineers reporting all different aspects of the building. So from building the rear end or the front end or the sides of the car and really focusing on mechanical portions, to the next element that goes into a controls engineer who's responsible for software, setting up the PLC, setting up the robotics. Then you get to your infrastructure engineers who's responsible for connecting compressed air and electricity, calculating how much airflow needs to be in the building, how many compressors you need. To your structure engineer, understanding how strong should the floor be, how strong should the roof be, how much light should be in the building, and all of those things. And the project manager, the purpose is basically just to make sure the team always swim in the same direction, if I can call that. You do a little bit of statuses, looking that there's no major issues currently. So typically we expect the engineers to escalate when something goes off track very quickly, because in a project like this, it's not just getting the body shop into place, but you also have it for a product that needs to make it to the market. And this specifically in automotive, you don't just have a product, you also have around 200 to 300 suppliers that's all working towards the same timeline. So if one is delayed, you affect 200 other businesses, which is a big no-no. So it's really, really important to always focus on hitting your milestones, and if you are not about to hit them, to escalate it. But that is more or less the team that you would have doing something like this.
What type of project management techniques have you kind of applied? Is there one dominant one? Is it company specific? Is it project specific that you pick one that is appropriate? What is that choice, or where does that choice actually lie?
So let's say there's a couple of levels of project management and styles that you do in a project like this. So we call it simultaneous engineering. Now, the problem is with car manufacturing is if you're going to do a new product, it takes typically 2 or 3 years to create a product that is safe, that is compliant, that meets all the regulations, that is attractive to the market. If you only start after this 3 years to design your production line, which takes another 1 or 2 years, and then start building the building, you're looking at a timeline of 7 to 8 years to bring a product into the market. And by the time you bring it into the market, it's already 8 years old, which means it's obsolete. So we use something in automotive called simultaneous engineering. It means you start with the product, the production system, and the structure all at the same time. The challenge here is when there are changes in the product, everybody needs to react. So if you decide that the door may, because the production system is very specific to the product. So if something on the product changes, it directly influences something in the production system. If your production system then is growing, it directly impacts infrastructure, structure as well, and everybody needs to react. So just dealing with this change. So I would say that the first thing that you need to set up with your simultaneous engineering is a good change management system where people can react and react quickly and understand what is the impact on time and money. Then you can focus, let's say in a layer lower, you get your normal project management, which is classic. You have a start of a project, you have your budget, you almost follow a linear approach where you say, okay, for my body shop, this is how we will do it. And then even in that, you can use different methods. So I remember normally when you start with a project, everybody gets a chance to put in budget. They get to put in timelines, and normally it exceeds the targets. So what you need to do is bring very quickly your project in budget, in target, in terms of theory, in calculations and numbers. And there we've used a lot of the times agile project management, what they typically use in software management, to quickly work on specific topics to see, can you bring down money, how much safety that the people put in there, because this is normally one of the problem when people do planning. They're a little bit scared to put real values down. So, for example, if you know it takes you 5.5 hours to drive from point X to point Y, you would typically tell people 6 hours. Now, 30 minutes might not sound like a lot, but it's typically 20 to 25% of a budget. Makes you over budget very quickly. And if everybody is doing this is just a big mess. So Agile really works well for that, to get to target very fast. And then for installation, we used also an experimental method that time in South Africa, 2015, called lean manufacturing, or lean installation rather, which is based on lean manufacturing and lean construction, where your installation method of the line follows almost a production type of system, manufacturing the line instead of building the line, so which is also what you can use. So I think there's not really always just one method. You have to feel a little bit where you can apply one and what would be most efficient and most transparent. I think that's very important, getting a lot of transparency in your project. And yeah, then it's about just executing.
All right, and yeah, you bring that point up now in terms of the execution. How important do you view the planning compared to the execution, in terms of, can you just, I guess you would agree that you can't just jump in and start doing, because it's all about the execution. But at some point you also need to not be too sentimental about your plan either, and actually make it work.
Yeah, so the plan itself, so to build a timeline for something like this takes almost 6 to 8 months. It's really not that easy, and you need a lot of synchronization from the supply chain to suppliers to end customer. Let me just give you an example. So typically, if you would need to start producing a car at a specific date, let's call it a test car, what you want is your parts in as early as possible, so that you can make sure your parts are there. You don't have any risk. You can build on the date that you were supposed to. But if you ask for your parts 2 or 3 weeks before, it means on your supplier side, they need to deliver and produce the parts 3 or 4 weeks earlier, which means they have less time for creating their tooling, because this is also something that takes a lot of time, and it's probably the longest lead time in the car project is to build the tools that builds the part. So if you don't give them enough time, then you don't get quality parts. If you give them too much time, you get your parts too late. So there's a lot of sync and a lot of agreements between a lot of people in the project. So the moment when you go off 1 or 2 days, it's not just yourself that actually immediately see this, but it's also everybody that's affected by it. So and in automotive, we love to escalate. So it's very quickly that you will get a few calls from your upper management saying, we hear you are 1 or 2 days late. What's going on? Why do we not know about this? So it's really very closely tracked by a lot of people. So it's not one person just looking at what's going on. It's a crowd of stakeholders that monitoring this to make sure that nothing is going wrong. So you actually get a lot of support from different departments, from different stakeholders that's always monitoring their own timelines, but also then basically yours as well to make sure you can deliver.
Good. I want to, the label that you were kind of given, or the title of being the Lighthouse Master. I remember we entered this new building on one side, and there was kind of like a whole hallway full of whiteboards and maps and things against the wall. And I can't recall exactly, but it was something along the lines of, this is kind of the morning meeting, and it reminded me of what we do on software development side when a group of experts get together and say, now we have a sprint, we've got 20 things to do, how are we going to prioritize them? Jump in, all hands on deck, and let's do them. Is that something similar on the project management side, or what was that daily operation and kind of firefighting exercise? How did that pan out?
Let's quickly answer the question, Lighthouse Master, where that came from. So I had the opportunity, and it was a great honor. Oliver Sipser, who is now leading BMW, the CEO, at that time was our production manager for all the plants worldwide, so really looking after global manufacturing. When we got the decision to build the BMW X3 in Roslyn, we were already 12 months behind schedule compared to a normal project. And he asked, and he actually demanded and say, we should create this project to be a lighthouse on how this could be and how you can catch up 1 year from your timeline, which we at the end did. And we took it seriously. And I think this was the reason for the Lighthouse Master. That we could deliver it. But yes, that's just a little bit of history on that. The morning meetings, I mean, you would have typically 3 layers of meetings. So you would start off with what we call level 1, is where you really bring the shop floor issues to to this morning meeting, where you say, okay, I did not get, this is late, that is late. And then it's very careful to listen where there's things that are late, and things, but there is an action plan to catch it up. And when there are things late and there are no plan to get it up, and we even don't even know where's the parts, for example, that you would then take after your morning meeting, you would sort of collect the top issues, and that you would take to your level 2 meeting, which is a little bit more than a couple of departments again together. Again, from this, you again scoop the top issues, and from this you go into your last layer meeting, and this is where you could really escalate it to upper management, who's got connections at the harbors, who's got connections at airports all over the world. So if you need to fly parts or get something, they can really support you very quickly or get you experts. So if you are struggling with a system where you really need precise expertise, the next day the guy will be there from Germany, for example, in South Africa, because he got the instruction from his boss to fly there. So you would have these different levels, and there the art was a little bit on understanding what is important to escalate, what we can solve ourselves, and just to get a general feeling also for the mood, because I think this is also one thing, maybe not always so easy in project management, but it's also important to look at people and to how is the mindset on the side, how's the attitude, how's the behavior, is everybody still positive? Because if you lose that, then immediately you are in a lot of trouble. If people lose motivation on site. So it's also a little bit not just project management, but also people management in these morning meetings.
Excellent. And this is not just on, this was kind of already the culture all in place when you were establishing and building the plant, or mainly during the operational side of the plant?
But this was still during building it. But also there's this transition from building, because the process in car manufacturing is once the production lines are built, you can start building what we call test cars. So, and you would normally have 2 or 3 loops, and we called it quality loops. So you would build a car completely through the entire value chain. They will test it, they will give you feedback, and it might be that there's some visual defects or even functional defects. You then take all of this input again back, you go back to your production lines or to your suppliers, you give them this feedback, they make the modifications again, and then you start building again again, the same loop, get feedback, make an optimization. And normally after 3 quality loops, you are on a good level. And then you are ready for production. But of course, this is normally new production systems, new technology, new standards. So people does not automatically know how it works. So you have this interface for about 6 months where you have the project team and the manufacturing team working together, teaching a little bit the one the other, trying to get the production line up to speed. You would normally start with an OEE of 40% or 30% even, and you need to ramp that up to world class of 85% in not less than 6 months, or not more than 6 months rather. And that is sort of the transition period. And as the 6 months are going by, you just lose a little bit more project people, and more manufacturing people start taking ownership of processes as you sign them off and so forth.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, at the time you were doing your PhD as well, and in the course where most of the students will actually be watching this interview, will likely choose their master's thesis as the project on which they're going to do the planning and the reporting side. So if you now think back on the project management from a BMW point of view and from a PhD point of view, what would be the one portion of advice that you would give to aspirant studenten?
Yeah, the first important thing is just do it. So, I mean, even I think if you're going to sit and think about it, about the time and everything that you need, it's probably going to look impossible. I'm not sure what the situation might be like, but even myself, I was doubting myself, doing a project, doing PhD at the same time. But for some reason, once you start doing it, you actually start filtering out waste in your day, and you start doing really great time management. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've actually gained from my PhD and doing this project is really how to manage time, how to cut out waste in your days. And even I use that a lot today. And that's probably the biggest thing I've gained. So I would say the first thing is you don't just get a PhD when you do a PhD. You get a lot with that. You get a different mindset. You learn how to tell stories, and that's really important. So I enjoyed it. So that's the first advice. If just do it. You should not even think about it. It's really, really nice doing it. Second is, try to make it relevant. So that's my personal opinion. So I've seen a lot of PhD topics, which I understand adds new knowledge, which is also really good. But I like things to be relevant, what is happening now or maybe in the near future. So choose a topic that's interesting for you and relevant and something that you are really invested in. If you do that, then also what you are doing, it will never feel like you are studying. It is just fun. I think from everything I've done, the PhD was the easiest, and the hardest was studying for my bachelor's degree, doing tests. This was really hard because I did not have the interest at that stage. So PhD is really, really fun.
Cool stuff. Willem, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and good luck with this new journey of yours.
Yeah, thank you, Johan, and also to everybody watching this video, thank you. You can also, if you like to share some details and there is a need for more information in the future, I'm always available and happy to consult and to discuss. I think it's important that scientists keep the conversation going. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity, sharing my story a little bit. Appreciate that.